In focus now, Senator Tom Cotton, Republican, member of Senate Judiciary and Armed Services Committees, is here with me down the stretch. So first of all, what do you make of these latest power rankings shifting over to the GOP? Just slightly, but it's happening. Doesn't count Democrats out completely, but what's going on in your estimation?
Well, Harris, it's not surprising that more Americans are repudiating Joe Biden and the Washington Democrats' agenda. You just look at the headlines. Inflation continues to run very high. The stock market has fallen precipitously over the last year and a half. More crime on the streets across America. We have a drug epidemic unlike anything this country has ever seen. I was on the campaign trail yesterday in Pennsylvania with Dr. Oz. We visited a natural gas pad in western Pennsylvania. That natural gas provides thousands of good, high-paying jobs to hardworking Pennsylvanians and Ohioans. It also provides low-cost energy to America. It helps America support our allies around the world who'd rather get American gas rather than Russian gas. And it's good for our environment because it's so clean burning as opposed to, say, foreign coal. Yet John Fetterman and Joe Biden and the Democrats would ban the techniques that we have to get that gas out of the ground. That's why Democrats are losing in the polls. That's why they're going to lose badly in 3 weeks.
I don't know how much time John Fetterman has to focus on that with the crime that's just out of control, particularly in Philadelphia. I wholeheartedly mean that. He might have been part of the problem with words like show the criminals mercy. So that's a big way to go. And now you got energy mixed in too. Inflation. And it gets mentioned every conversation. You mentioned it a few moments ago. A few days ago, President Biden said there may be a chance of a slight recession, but maybe just slight. Well, Bloomberg out with a new projection. There is a 100% chance of a recession in the next year, given the decade's high inflation, Fed interest hikes, and tense political climate. The economy, of course, we know the senator is top of mind for voters. A New York Times poll shows concern over economic issues have jumped to 44% from 36% a few weeks ago in summer. Americans also are weary when it comes to the president's performance on those top issues. New Fox polling puts Biden's inflation approval at just 29%. Where are the 29% who actually like where inflation is? The White House doing pretty much anything they can, they say, to defend him. Let's watch together.
If President Biden's top domestic priority is inflation, why doesn't he have more to show for it?
So he's been very clear about making that his #1 economic priority. And he's done the work with congressional Democrats.
But who exactly thinks the president is doing a good job on inflation?
We understand that there are challenges that are in front of us here in this country. That is why the president has taken action to lower costs. Republicans in Congress refuse. They refuse to be partners with us on this.
All right, we'll hear from Democrats in a moment. I want to get your direct reaction to what she's talking about from the White House lectern.
Well, guilty as charged that Republicans in Washington have refused to spend trillions of dollars we don't have. Joe Biden and the Democrats don't have an answer on inflation because they're the cause of inflation. There's 2 main reasons we have this inflation at generational highs. The first is Democrats have spent trillions of dollars that we don't have. It was completely obvious and predictable. In fact, it was predicted, not just by Republicans, but by Democrats like former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, that spending all that money would lead to inflation. Yet the Democrats kept spending it. Even after we had record high inflation, just a couple months ago, they spent another $700 billion. The second reason we have so much inflation is the price of energy is so high, because it doesn't just hit families in their budget when the price they pay for gasoline is high. It drives up the cost of manufacturing, it drives up the cost of doing business, it drives up the cost of transportation, and that very much is an intentional policy. The Democrats want energy prices to be high because they want to end American production of fossil fuels, oil and gas and coal. They may not say it in the 45 days before an election. They may rely on gimmicks like releasing oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which is also dangerous to our national security. But mark my words, on November 9th, the Democrats are going to go back to openly waging war on American oil, gas, and coal.
When you say words like intentional crisis, all I can think of is our power grids are still about 80% dependent on fossil fuels and or coal. I mean, I don't know what they're thinking they're doing, but they're actually making that situation weaker using electricity. I mean, I remember a few weeks ago, you do too, when the governor of California said, we're in a heat wave, stop plugging in your electric cars. I mean, it's a world of hurt that they brought with the policies. Now for the Democrats, Senator, who also are not getting what they need from the president. Watch.
The president over the weekend said the economy is, quote, strong as hell. Do you agree with that?
I think there is much more the administration needs to do, especially around energy costs.
Wow. Oh, boy, that's like losing a relative, Hassan. And you say what to that?
Yeah. Well, every one of these Democrats, Maggie Hassan in New Hampshire, Raphael Warnock in Georgia, Mark Kelly in Arizona, Catherine Cortez Masto in Nevada, any one of them could have put their foot down in a 50-50 Senate and demanded that Joe Biden stop his war on American oil and gas and coal. And they didn't. They were a rubber stamp for Joe Biden. And a vote for any Democrat this year is a vote for Joe Biden's agenda. If you want affordable and reliable energy in this country, you need to vote Republican on November 8th.
Yeah, you have really tied that with inflation, unlike the president was able to tie his Inflation Reduction Act to actual inflation and reducing it. Just one quick one. Fox News polling shows extremely or very concerned. They ask voters. Their number one thing by 89%, inflation/higher prices. Democrats are in trouble. They have only 21 days to figure that one out. Will they do it? Meanwhile, President Biden is... Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Your quick thought.
No, they won't do it again because it's their policies that have caused this inflation, sometimes intentionally caused it in the form of high gasoline prices. So, of course, they're not going to figure it out. They just hope that they can distract the American people for another 21 days so they can get back to those harmful policies.
President Biden is scrambling to tame just what Senator Cotton's talking about.